Hello everyone, hope you're doing well. It's time to have a look at the aviation side of the summer event with the main prize, which you get at 8 marks of distinction. It is, of course, the Su-25BM 558 ARZ, which is, well, an interesting name at least. What this is a souped-up standard Su-25 with a bunch of new weaponry and also new engines, which is something to look forward to. I've seen a lot of people say this event vehicle is uninspired, and I think that's fair, especially if you have a look at all of the other ones. This one is definitely the most copy-pasty compared to the other ones. At the same time, this has been something they've done a lot over the last few events, trying to put in strike aircraft as event vehicles, so people don't have to grind out tech trees to be able to bring in CAS, which is obviously the reason why drones exist as well. The question is that the right idea? Is that something they should be pushing for? My opinion is no, but it's something that continues. This will be a strike aircraft for the USSR, it'll be at rank 7, and also an event aircraft, so you'll have to grind this out, which definitely won't be easy in the current meta. Let's get into the history of this vehicle. In the mid-2010s, the Belarusian 558 aircraft repair plant developed an upgrade program of the Sukhoi Su-25 attack aircraft. The program included upgrading the aircraft for the use of advanced weapons, installing new navigation and also targeting systems, as well as a digital HUD in the cockpit. The program was presented to the public at an aircraft exhibition in Minsk in 2017 and interested foreign operators of the Su-25. The plant received an order for the modernization of Bulgarian and Kazakhstani strike aircraft, and also, according to some data, aircraft of the Air Force and Air Defense Forces of the Republic of Belarus were also upgraded under this program. So this is technically the third iteration of the Su-25 we've had in the game. The first one being the Su-25 and then Su-25K, which turned up. Then you have the other Su-25, which is the upgraded one, plus the Su-39, which was added more recently. So the real difference, or the real question is, how is this different compared to those two sets of vehicles? Basically, the Su-25BM is kind of a mixture between the Su-25T and the standard Su-25. So it's an Su-25 which has the upgraded new engines, which are on stuff like the Su-25T, which gives it more maximum speed and obviously takeoff power. What also it has access to is a new multifunctional display and also HUD, which you'll be able to see in the cockpit, especially if you play simulator, it'll be super useful. And one of the things it also has access to is all of the new weaponry. So it can run the KH-29T missiles with the TV guidance system and also the KAB 500KR guided bombs, which you probably won't use too much, but at the same time, obviously nice to see. So one of the things a lot of the Su-25s are generally missing is these kind of fire and forget munitions. A lot of it is either missiles or big rockets, that you fire in, or it's generally the good old air-to-air stuff. At least that's what I've seen used. So this vehicle here instead will rely more on guided munitions in the form of TV-guided missiles and also guided bombs. What it also has access to as well is better air-to-air missiles, and this is where it gets interesting. And I've seen a lot of people talk about this, and I'm sure in the future we'll talk about it a lot, and its impact on the game. So it starts off with R60Ms. These are the all-aspect R60s, nothing too crazy. It's something which is on a lot of vehicles around the BR this thing's going to be at. But also, as an upgrade, it gets access to the R73. Now, the R73 has only been seen once in War Thunder, and it was on the dev server when the MiG-29 was going to be introduced. And let's just say, it was kind of nutty. But also at the same time, it has to be, I have to remind people that through data mines and also through general statements, the R73 has changed significantly since that dev server, and also at the same time hasn't been added to the game yet. This will be the first time that the missile is seen in combat in War Thunder, instead of just in a test environment. One of the things that some people asked was, why is the R73 not being added to better platforms like the MiG-29? And Esmin 1080p said the MiG-29 and Yak-141 will not be receiving the missile for now. The BM will be the first aircraft with the missile, and it's possible the Su-39 and 25T may receive it later in the future. The missile's potential impact depends very much on the carrier. It's an entirely different matter if a fighter aircraft like the MiG-29 and Yak-141 have this missile. And this is completely true. It's also why stuff like the A-10 and the standard Su-25 took over the metas for the longest period of time, because of the simple fact that the airframe itself doesn't offer a ton of speed. It offers a little bit of maneuverability, but they had countermeasures and also access to crazy missiles. It looks like they're looking at the Su-25T and also this new Su-25 and going, well, if they're not performing great, better give them the crazy missiles. And the fact that they're giving the Su-25BM these crazy missiles in the form of the R-73 tells me that the Su-25T and Su-39 are not doing as well as they wanted them to. And it's not a surprise, because they're at that level where a bunch of things have access to countermeasures now. So therefore they can't just fire like 2 missiles and just get 2 easy kills and then move from there, which is what the earlier Su-25 and Su-25K could do. So we'll have to see how this goes. I really detest these platforms. I think they're some of the most unbalanced vehicles in the game. Not specifically the Su-25, but this idea of having a vehicle which doesn't have a great set of factors in its flight performance, so it's not crazy fast, it's not crazy maneuverable, or anything like that, but it has insanely good weapons on it. This is something which has plagued War Thunder for a while now, for at least 2 or 3 years, and it's getting to a point where some of these vehicles are becoming incredibly hard to balance, especially since their competitiveness in air battles and also ground battles is completely different to each other and how they're specifically played. Looking at a vehicle like this, the Su-25BM, all I see is a vehicle, if it's put too high in BR, will be completely dead on arrival. But if it's put too low on BR, it's a vehicle with access to R-73s, which will get 2 easy kills and then be able to dogfight whenever it needs to. And then in ground, if somebody uses a light vehicle to get into this thing super quickly, then you can get access to 2 fire and forget missiles, which could work very well. One of the things I will say about the Soviet machines, a lot of them really rely on very high altitude top-down attack when it comes to using missiles and guided bombs, and something like this vehicle will not be able to get into a position like that for a very long time in ground battles, meaning that it's probably not going to be as useful as a lot of other vehicles around. A lot of crazy CAS for the USSR either relies on broken helicopters like the K-50 or K-52 or Mi-28NM, or it relies on very high altitude top-down attacks with stuff like MiG-27s. The Su-25 only really works in certain scenarios because, first of all, it is incredibly tanky and still is, meaning that it can eat IR missiles for breakfast. But the second reason is because you can get in it early, use the pretty good rockets with CCIP, and then just annihilate stuff. With this new set of weaponry that's on this, the Su-25BM, the guided bombs, and also the KH-29Ts, I don't think they're going to be as useful as the other options, just because it's not how you generally play these Su-25s. And also the optics on this vehicle, unless this package that they gave this thing improves the optics, and what I mean by this is like the actual targeting system that this vehicle has for the KH-29T, then it's not going to be that useful. There's something about the Soviet avionics that they have with a lot of the vehicles that just make them very hard to use. You know, there isn't a lot of zoom, the general box is pretty big, and also you need to obviously stay on target the whole time while doing it. Obviously with the KH-29T you don't have to do that, but the actual locking a target and getting it sorted hopefully won't be as much of an issue as it is with other Soviet machines. This thing has the capability of taking over games, but needs very specific circumstances, and that's why it has a chance of being a very unbalanced vehicle, and that worries me because that's exactly what happened when the Su-25 Standard came to the game. It found its niche, and it did really, really well. So we'll have to see what goes on with this. I'm erring on the side of it won't be very useful. It'll just be cannon fodder because it doesn't have the IRCM, and they'll probably put it at the same BR as the Su-25, which they just added, the Su-25T, and therefore it'll be susceptible to getting annihilated. As always, I hope you have a wonderful day, and I'll see you next time. I'd just like to thank Millie Draper, Juan the Panda, Nick R. Kupila, Carrion Crow, Gus Irenicus, Pyman, Merciless Reaper, Orange Tail, Teddy, Daniel Stanton, Moxie B. Young, Peter Grayling, Jerry Provolt, Bareen, Alan Hacker, Sem Arslan, Uncle Bean, Derek R., and Lafouche for supporting the channel.